Today, in this episode of Railways in a Nutshell, I'm going to talk about DPUs. Well, what are DPUs? Well, it stands for Distributed Power Unit, which is almost exactly what it sounds. So basically, they take a locomotive and they put it either mid-train or at the end of the train. This enables trains to go upgrades and or can increase the train length. Now in the video you saw here, you can see a mid-train helper going by. And then also here I have a couple still photos. One of an end train helper. This is in near Chicago on the end of a coal train. And the other one's out in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, and that's on the end of an intermodal train. The trains these days are getting up over 10,000 feet in length. And DPUs are the main reason for that, and they're becoming more and more prevalent in use. Now, why do we have DPUs? Well, one is the reason I mentioned before with regards to helping upgrades, and of course it's longer trains, but if you ever hear a train, when it slows down, starts, or accelerates, you'll hear a loud chain of bangs. This is the slack of the train, either the slack being pulled out or the train kind of pushing together. You can see that on a model train as well if you have a train there, but it's much less noticeable and much quieter. The issue with putting too much of your power, or all of your power, on the front of a train is you can cause broken couplers. Here in this picture in Milton from a number of years ago, you can see a train that is now having to be repaired because that is exactly what happened. So DPUs greatly help ease the slack problem and help prevent broken knuckles on the couplers. So where are DPUs used? Well, initially they were used out in the west, such as in Western Canada, to help get trains up and over the Continental Divide. Whether trains are coming eastbound, such as a lot of inbound containers and such, and general mixed freight, or a lot of westbound freight, which you're getting from the prairies and parts of Alberta. You're getting a lot of unit trains, coal and potash and sulfur and such. So you need these big heavy trains to get up over the mountains, and DPU is ideal for this idea. But however, trains have become more and more prevalent as being longer over the years, as I mentioned earlier, up over 10,000 feet in length. And as these trains became longer, DPUs have become more prevalent in other parts, virtually almost all over the place, including here in Ontario. They are also used in the wintertime when trains sometimes have to be shortened due to the fact that it is more difficult to pump the air through the lines for the braking of the train. Putting a DPU mid-train helps ensure that the air is being pumped to all the cars. So what is the difference between a DPU and what is referred to historically as a helper unit? Well, helper units are manned locomotives, and they started out in the days of steam engines when they used to run steam engines on the back to push or put them on the front end to help pull the train. And each engine or group of MU engines, which are attached via cables, would be run by an engineer, and it would be run and by a radio signal or communicated somehow. So it's a little more tricky, a little more manual. There still are helper units today, as can be seen here by this picture of Norfolk Southern manned helpers at Horseshoe Curve near Altoona, Pennsylvania. As opposed to helper units, DPUs are controlled from the cab of the lead engine. So basically that engineer not only controls the engines that are MU'd together in the cluster at the front of the train, but also any DPU units mid-train or at the end of the train. So it's much more sophisticated. Now, DPUs technically have been around for quite a few years. And back in the 70s, railways such as Canadian Pacific had distributed power, mostly mid-train helpers on their large coal trains and unit trains going through the mountains. Now, back then, the equipment was a lot less sophisticated and a lot more cumbersome, and they actually took what was actually an unmanned B unit locomotive, which is a unit without a cab, and they reconfigured it and made them into what were called robot cars. And that's used those cars to control these remote units. So that concludes this episode on DPUs, or distributed power units. I hope you found this session interesting and maybe you learned something today. Thank you for watching another video in my Railways in a Nutshell series focused on educating people on railway subject matter. If you like this video and are interested in seeing more of this type of content, please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have suggestions for other railway topics, feel free to send them to me.